dude, I had zero results, no warm leads. Like I wasn't getting anywhere close to closing a storage facility. And then I really had to reflect. And through coaching, I was able to assess and realize that like, dude, I hadn't done the work. No matter who you hire, what mastermind you join, what products or services you subscribe to, nothing replaces doing the actual work, right? And so storage isn't a get rich quick scheme, just like a house business isn't. You got to do the work and nothing is going to take the place of that. So until you're willing to sacrifice and actually like roll your sleeves up and get in the trenches, it's going to be difficult to succeed.
Alex, thank you for joining me on our Thought Leader Spotlight series. I'm your host over here, Matt Kamp with DealMachine. And on these, we really like to shine a spotlight on industry experts like yourself, hear your inspiring stories and see how you see the world evolving. So today, really excited to welcome back on Alex Pardo. Alex is somebody who is, I know you started wholesaling and flipping single family homes back in 2005, had closed over 700 transactions through that time. And then in 2020, transitioned from houses into storage. So I'm excited to hear about that journey. I know you own 3 storage facilities right now. It's at 838 units in Florida, Mississippi, over 104,000 rentable square footage. So you're scaling this thing. And I know you coach other entrepreneurs on how to do that. I've been on your show, Flip Empire. That's been fantastic in the past. That podcast is really, about achieving financial freedom and also building the life that you want in that process. And you're a man of family and faith overall. So, for first and above all, I guess. So, Alex, excited to have you back on, man.
My man, thank you for the opportunity. Love, just always enjoy connecting with you, man. I feel like our conversations are so effortless, and then love what you guys are doing over at DealMachine. Yeah, man, just excited to be on.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was looking back. I could not believe it. It's been over 3 years since you've been on, at least doing this with me, like pre-recorded. So, to give us a little bit of an update over, like, I mentioned it in the bio, but or that intro right there, but really going from the house business you were really deep into when last time we had you on, and you transitioned into self-storage. Like, give me that journey over the last couple of years, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, and it's wild that 3.5 years ago is when I was last on your show, because that was around the time that I had started getting involved in storage, about 3.5-4 years ago. And I guess I'll pick up the story, man, in 2018. So at that point I was, whatever it was, 13-14 years into my journey. And I had, you ever had those defining moments where you remember specifically where you were? My wife and I were on a cruise, Matt. And at that time, 2018, I think I had a team of 7 or 8 people, the typical wholesaling setup of acquisition managers, dispo, lead manager, the whole 9. And around that time, I had joined the very high level mastermind, which, just a great community. But if I'm being honest, man, like I didn't honor my vision, right? Like I got into real estate, Matt, because I wanted cash flow. I wanted to build wealth. I wanted time freedom, all the things that real estate can do for us. And yet I found myself in the hamster wheel of going deal after deal and chasing deal after deal. And I feel like I had built this business that almost felt like a prison, except I didn't have the keys. And while I was on this cruise, I just had a lot of deals falling out of contract. Things were happening back home within the business. And I told my wife, I said, something has to change. And over the course of those 2 years, I started to have serious thoughts about what it would look like not to be running a wholesaling operation, despite the fact that we were doing deals, we were making money, we were profitable. And in 2019, man, I really started to get serious about like, hey, I asked myself one important question, Matt. I said, if I'm doing this a year from now, how would I feel? And I would equate the feeling I had to when I worked in corporate finance back in 2003, where it was Sunday evening and I knew I had to go to work the next day. And I was like, man, this is even worse than that, because this is a business I've created, right? And I don't even want to be involved in my own business. And I was super grateful for the money that I've made in wholesaling, but I just got tired of just chasing deals and not enough cash flow and getting taxed at the highest tax rate. And around that time, I was, through our mastermind, I was coaching a gentleman that owned a storage facility. And when you coach somebody, you get the inside look into their business, what's working, what's not. And dude, I never forget thinking to myself, like, this asset class has been sitting right under my nose. It's like, this guy has time freedom. He's got cash flow. He's got all the benefits of a business without like the headaches that I was experiencing in my wholesaling business. So man, when COVID came, And I'll start to kind of wind down the story and we could talk about that transition. But when COVID came, it was just an accelerator. It was a blessing in disguise. COVID came obviously March of 2020, or at least like, when the world started to kind of shut down. And by June of 2020, I had completely unwound the entire business. And I just shut it down, dude. And I remember my coach telling me at the time, he gave me some valuable feedback. He said, don't be anxious to go start another business or conquer the next mountain. He said, take a little bit of time off, reflect, and seek to gain clarity and more wisdom. And fast forward to December of 2020, that's when I officially transitioned into storage.
Wow, man, that's good. I love your question too of saying, hey, if I'm doing this in a year from now, will I be happy? Like, is this where I want to be? I think that just pausing, because it's so hard. You can be heads down and, like you said, on that hamster wheel. Like, it's hard to take a step back and ask yourself that question and like really be serious about reflecting on that. But
yeah, and man, that's such an important point that you bring up, that if anybody walks with anything away from this short show, but they can get that, is you don't have to step away from a business, but make sure that you're carving out time, whether it's on a Sunday or early in the morning, whatever works for you, but carve out time to like just reflect and think and write and journal and meditate and all the things that we know are quote unquote healthy. But how many of us are actually intentionally creating the time? Because when you're able to get away from a device like a phone that I'm flashing on the screen now, and we unplug and we just sit with our thoughts, there's so much freedom that can emerge from that process if we're willing to go deep. And so just that time away from the business really gave me a lot of clarity. And one of the things that I was struggling with in making that decision was a little bit of identity crisis, if I'm being honest. Like I've been hosting the Flip Empire show, and I still do since 2016. And I'm kind of known as a real estate guy. And I was starting to think to myself, like, what are people going to think if I'm no longer doing real estate, or if I'm no longer transacting, or, I was still coaching. And so I had all this imposter syndrome crap came up. And what I realized is that was all made up stuff in my head. It wasn't anything anybody projected on me. And at the end of the day, if you've dealt with imposter syndrome or any type of identity crisis, what I've come to realize is that the business I run in real estate doesn't define who I am as a man, a father, a husband, a son of God, etc. Like, that's just what I do. But man, I quickly had to like realize that it's not about what others may think of me or how I might be seen. It's about honoring my vision and doing what's best for myself, my family, and hopefully you're walking a path that's aligned with your purpose. It's aligned with your values, your faith. And so, yeah, dude, that's a little bit of my journey from transitioning from single family over to storage.
yeah, I love getting on here with you, man, because you really, I love the intentionality you have around a lot, and how, a lot of this stuff, and how you kind of reframe what's important in life, right? So,
Thank you, man. Thank you.
do you feel like, I know you mentioned, I know you mentioned your coach kind of helped you through some of that. Do you feel like coaching has really provided you a big guidance? Like, what was the role of coaching in this whole journey?
Brother, it's honestly, man, I don't know where I'd be in my journey without a coach. People sometimes ask me, Matt, like, what's the best real estate deal you've ever done? And then they're shocked a minute later, because the best real estate deal I've ever done, I lost $51,000. And with a partner combined, we lost $102,000. And I won't share that story, but it was back in 2007. I decided to get involved in my first luxury fix and flip. And up until that point, a couple of years into my journey, I always saw coaches as an expense. And then I quickly realized that if I had a coach in my corner, I would have never gotten involved in that deal. And a coach is able to shine the flashlight ahead of you where you can't see. And they're able to guide you and hold you accountable. So from 2008 till now, I've always had a coach. In fact, I have multiple coaches in different areas of my life. And so to me, the right coach is like the ultimate insurance policy. It doesn't guarantee your success. It just guarantees that you're going to have support, accountability. They're able to share with you the things that you don't know. So hopefully, I don't think I need to go on about the importance of coaching, but I can only speak for myself in that when I decided to get involved in storage, I hired a coach. Like I walk what I preach as well. And so I always believe, Matt, that we need to have one hand up to a coach or mentor and one hand down to a client, a student, a mentee. And while somebody's bringing you up, you need to be bringing somebody up.
Love that. Yeah. Yeah, no, I just it's great to hear your personal experience with that and how much that's made an
Yeah.
impact on you. Can you tell us more? I mean, you talk about kind of that bridge, that transition from, going from somebody who's known very specifically in a particular niche into this new one. Like what? Tell me about that journey, the lessons you learned along the way, like how you made that transition.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you one big lesson I learned is that if I'm being very vulnerable and transparent with you, Matt, and with the audience, when I got involved in storage, I came into it overly confident, borderline cocky, and that's really not my nature to be cocky. But I was like, oh, because I've closed all these transactions and my network, my experience in real estate, like I'll crush this. That I wasn't saying that publicly. That's what I was thinking, and I think that's important that we operate with confidence, but it was
Mhm.
bordering on cocky. And then come fast forward to March of 2021, dude, I had zero results, like no warm leads. Like I wasn't getting anywhere close to closing a storage facility. And then I really had to reflect. And through coaching, I was able to assess and realize that, like, dude, I hadn't done the work. Like, no matter who you hire, what mastermind you join, what products or services you subscribe to, nothing replaces doing the actual work. Right. And
Mhm.
so storage isn't a get rich quick scheme, just like the house business isn't. You got to do the work, and nothing is going to take the place of that. So until you're willing to sacrifice and actually like roll your sleeves up and get in the trenches, it's going to be difficult to succeed, right? And really gain significant traction. So, man, another defining moment for me in March, I put my head down. I got clear on what were the daily actions I needed to take that would stack up to weekly wins, monthly wins. And end of April, a month and a half later, I was under contract on my first facility, almost 43,000 square feet. And then I ended up closing that first one in September of 2021. So, yeah, man.
Nice. Yeah. Man, it's that rings so true. I mean, something that on the deal machine front, I mean, we're just the nature of what we do. We're a tool to make you more successful, but you still, like you said, you got to put in the work. Like we can
Right.
make you more efficient at it, more effective at it, but in the end, like it's about you more than anything. Like you're the one who succeeds in the real estate business, not the technology, not even the coach, whatever it might be. It's about you taking ownership, getting out there, and like you said, setting those goals, being consistent, putting in the work. Like we love to try to lay out the playbook for that. And we actually do have a lot of people that will use us for self storage now too, because we have so much new data inside Deal Machine now that you can go in there and filter for self storage and use. I mean, we've
I love
got
it.
hundreds of property types now at this point that you can really dig into beyond single family or even multifamily. But I'd say like in the end, no matter what the property type or what the asset type you're getting into is, the one commonality across all the successful people in that space and every other one is they put in the work, right?
That's it,
So
man. I'm glad to hear you kind of like echo my thoughts in a different way, because people need to hear it from multiple angles and perspectives. Like too many people, I think, spend time in the CRM or on the tools. Those are all valuable resources, right? Like they can really help our process, but that's what feels good. That's what's comfortable. Picking up the phone, talking to an owner or a seller, making an offer, like doing the work, like that's the stuff that's uncomfortable. Yet those are the revenue generating activities, the things that are needle movers that are going to get us closer to what we ultimately want.
yep, absolutely. So,
Yep.
I mean, tell us more. I know you kind of mentioned like you got into that particular customers business around kind of self storage, but take us under the hood a little bit. Like, what about self storage get you
Oh,
excited? Like, why
yeah,
did you
man.
choose that asset? Yeah,
Brother, I could go on and on about this, and I'll do my best to just kind of keep it short and sweet because I know we don't have a ton of time here. But like,
you're good.
we're not dealing with tenants. We're not dealing with toilets. We're not dealing with like crazy repairs. I mean, think about what storage is. All we do is rent space, right? It's a pretty simple business. Now, one of the things I love about storage, Matt, is that it's a business that has the benefits of real estate. Like it is a legitimate business. But again, we're not dealing with all the headaches. When I talk to my buddies in multifamily, like I don't have to deal with a lot of those types of things. Another thing I really like is that it produces cash flow. It can really build your wealth. And one of the reasons is the operating expense ratio in storage on average is about 35%. If you compare that to multifamily, which multifamily operating expenses are 45 to 55%. So what does that mean? It's a pretty forgiving business. Our margins are a lot wider in the storage asset class. I love the fact that it's a super, super sticky product and service. So think about, Matt, if you were to move your stuff. I don't know if you've ever rented storage, but
Right.
think about
Yeah.
moving all your stuff into a 10 by 20.
Yeah, it's
furniture,
awful.
boxes. Well, think about the
Removal.
process if you want to cancel that service and move out. Like, what
Right.
do you have to do?
Yeah.
You got to get a moving company, or you got to hire, you got to get a truck. You got to bother friends and
Mm.
family. It's a
It's a headache.
weekend affair.
Yeah.
So, dude, when I look at our facilities, like the majority of our customers have been with us for more than 18 months. And so
Wow.
that's great from a cash flow perspective. It's
Hmm.
also an asset class that while there's more people chasing it than there were 2, 3 years ago, I still feel like it's super untapped. I think the stat is there's more than 75,000 mom and pop operated storage facilities in the country. And you have a very, very tiny percentage of people actually looking for those assets. So, compared to, in my opinion, even though single family, there's a lot more volume of homes, of course, the barriers to entry in single family are so low that you have so many people chasing the same assets. So anyway, man, those are just a
Yeah.
few of many reasons I love storage.
Love that. Yeah, we'll have to do a deep dive on that, in a follow up too. But
Happy to,
I
man.
think, yeah, that would be fantastic. I know, like I mentioned, to find those deals for sure, we've got a ton of list building data now inside DealMachine that people can filter by for self storage and things like that. The big thing that I a lot of maybe newer people as well would be intimidated by would be, okay, if you're going out there trying to find them, how are you funding those deals? Like,
Yeah,
how do you structure that? How do you find the money for that? Like,
yeah,
can you kind of break down
sure.
how to even think about that portion of it?
Yeah, well, I love the last part of your question the most because how you need to think about it is understanding that if you find the right deal, if you find the right storage facility, the money will follow. That is the first thing people need to understand. I've talked to so many people, Matt, that they try to figure out the funding challenge or the funding solution before they've even spent 1 minute going out and trying to find a facility. And it's almost like putting on your pants before you put on your underwear. Like it doesn't make sense. It's just not going to look good, right? So that's just an analogy that came to mind. But like, start focused by finding the right opportunity, right? And the money will come. Now, I've been involved in 6 storage deals, 3 of which I own, 3 of which I've wholesaled, and they've all been structured in different ways. So I've gotten SBA financing, right? And then I brought in an equity partner for the down payment needed. I've raised private money to structure these deals. I've done seller financing, which is one of my favorite tools, right? Where you basically turn the seller, the storage owner, into a bank. So I've done 6 deals, and to this day, I have yet to use 1 penny of my own money. So OPM, right? Other people's money. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean you don't need capital. It just means you don't necessarily have to have it. And that's one of the things that I find, Matt, holds most people back from transitioning or from single family to storage or multifamily, or just adding it as a branch to the business, is that they think they need to have hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars in a bank account, which when I got started, I didn't, right? But if you
Mhm.
understand how to structure deals, then you can get involved in storage. And the pie in storage is a lot bigger. So you don't need to be all things to the entire deal. But if you're clear on what assets and resources you can bring to the table, you can carve out a piece of these deals, right? Like if you're a good deal finder, but you don't know how to raise money or you don't know how to operate storage, great. Go find a deal for like an operator like myself or somebody else, and you can receive equity in that deal. Maybe you
Mhm.
have a deep network and you're really good at raising capital, but you don't know the first thing about operating or finding deals. Great. Be a connector. So there's always ways you can get involved in these deals.
Love that. When you say, if you have the right deal, then the money will follow.
Yep.
I know we could do a whole follow up on what the right deal looks like, but do you have a couple, maybe
Yeah.
nuggets or overall ways to evaluate, like, what does the right deal look like at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, just to zoom out a little bit, I love to
Mhm.
focus, Matt, on markets that are considered secondary or tertiary. As an example, like I live in Miami and I've never spent 1 minute looking for storage in Miami. So I'm not looking
Mhm.
at big cities. I'm looking at cities that have a population between 1,000 people and 60,000 people. And then a couple other factors I look for is I want cities that have a medium household income over 50,000 and where the population ideally is increasing over time. So
Mhm.
once we do that, we're looking for mom and pop operated facilities. Now, in its simplest form, one of the big differences between storage and single family or commercial in general and residential is that, as you guys probably know, in the residential world, how do we evaluate properties? It's based on comps, right? Based on
Mhm.
comparable sales. Well, in
Mhm.
commercial, it's not based on comps, it's based on the net operating income. In other words, the income that the asset produces determines the value of that particular asset. So one of the simplest ways I can explain this is, think of buying a rental property in the year 1995. And let's say you were getting $700 a rent in 1995. I just made up that number. Imagine now owning that same asset, but you've never increased the rent. That is essentially what a lot of these mom and pop storage owner operators do, is that they've been running and operating these assets, but they're not treating it like a business. So one of the ways that we look for value add deals is we look for mom and pop operated facilities that they're not running it efficiently. They're not treating it like a business. Maybe they haven't raised the rates, right? And we look at the market and we say, hey, the market is here, but the rates for these units are here. We can go in and we can just do simple rent raises. We can introduce automation and technology, which a lot of these mom and pop operators, like many of them don't even have a website. And if I told you that 85% of our tenants came from online marketing, like pay-per-click SEO, imagine facilities out there that don't even have a website, that are running like old school mom and pop models. So those are some of the value add opportunities that we look for, basically looking for the gap, the delta between what the current rates are and what the market street rates are. I mean, obviously there's a lot of other factors, but those are just a few examples.
Man. Yeah. I love, you really break it down and make it approachable. I love that. It's something that
thank you, man.
Yeah. It's an area that like, I think a lot of our customers are curious of and like have heard, maybe some of the benefits of, but you can really break it down in a less intimidating way for the newbie, So
thank you, man. And anybody out there that that is interested, the question is always, where do you start? Well, when you're driving around and you see storage facilities that are mom and pop, or you're on Google and you're virtually driving for dollars, right? Which I know DealMachine talks a lot about, and you see these opportunities. Obviously, use DealMachine, right, to track down the owner's information. An alternative is you can just call the phone number on there. And one of the approaches that I have found to be very effective, Matt, is instead of asking, hey, are you interested in selling your facility? Most of the time, the answer is going to be no. Number one, understand when you're cold calling, the job of the other person on the end of that line is to hang up and get off the phone as quickly as possible. So what I have found to be most effective is to immediately introduce yourself, why you're calling. And I love humbling yourself, being real. And if you don't own storage, tell them, hey, listen, I came across your facility. I was driving by it, or I saw it on Google. Compliment them, right? Looked awesome. Looks like you're doing a great job. Like, I'm anxious. I really want to get involved in storage. I'm looking for my first deal. Could you just give me a little bit of guidance? Like, what's been your experience owning and operating? Because I'm really looking to learn from somebody knowledgeable with experience like yourself. Humble yourself, compliment them. What I have found is that more times than not, people are willing to help. And what you're doing is not looking to buy the facility. You're just looking to like establish a connection, start to build a relationship, and open up a conversation, a dialogue. And then inevitably at some point in the conversation, you can transition and ask, hey, this has been super helpful. Thank you for your time. Do you know anybody that might be interested in selling? Right. And many times they'll say, well, actually, ... And then it kind of, so it's a very indirect approach. But I have found that worst case scenario, you're building rapport, you're building a relationship, and they might be actually giving you some really valuable feedback.
Yeah. So you probably learned some things along the way too. That's
for sure.
I love that approach, man. That's phenomenal. Yeah. Man, this has been so good, Alex. We might have to have you on. I know on Wednesday afternoons we have, for DealMachine customers only, we do the DealMachine podcast live. So we have people come in and host a masterclass just for our people. So we might have to, if you're open to that, might have to have you on.
I totally love that, man. That'd be awesome. That'd be a lot of fun.
Deal. So how can people connect with you in the meantime? Like, I know you talked about, you got storagewins.com. You have, I believe, some slides that you could text out to people on.
Yeah. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, a couple different ways. So I recently gave a presentation where I went like even a lot more in depth about storage, why storage, how you guys can get involved. It's all content, no pitching or anything like that. Right now, to be honest with you, dude, like I haven't even put it up online. But if you guys text me, I'll give you my phone number, 305-318-6213. Text me, just put DealMachine. Heard you on DealMachine podcast, something that I'll know. And then I'm happy to send you over the Dropbox link. Again, it's just, I think you'll get a lot of value out of that presentation. So 305-318 6213. And then anybody interested in actually getting involved in storage, love to have a conversation with you. www.storagewins.com.
Perfect. This was so good, man. So I'll link to all of that below. Alex, really appreciate you coming on again. This was glad we could check back in finally. It's been too long. So
thank you, my friend. This has been awesome, dude. Always enjoy connecting with you, and congrats on all the success with DealMachine, man. It is incredible how much you guys have grown and how much value you're adding to real estate investors, the industry. Just love the product and service, man.
That means a lot, man. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So, we'll follow up on all this stuff together. I know to everyone watching, this is Matt Kamp over here with DealMachine, and happy deal finding.